Hi, I'm Steve Kostansky, director of Frankie Frico, Psycho Gorman, and co-director of The Void, here to tell you to check out the Carlisle Cult Cinema Club. Check out their Facebook page and their YouTube channel. Make sure you hit like and subscribe and do all that good stuff. While you're at it, check out The Instructor. Pretty fun movie. Bye.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's me, PD, back with another Carlisle Cult Cinema Club Presents. And in this episode, we've got a TROG special, and we're joined by Gentlemen of Horror, Eric Mcnaughton, also publisher, owner of We Belong Dead, proper nice guy, and he loves his TROG. So
yes,
we thought we'd do a TROG special. If you can call it that, because it is a very special film, let's be honest. Yeah, so let's give a bit of background on it to start. A sympathetic anthropologist played by Joan Crawford uses drugs and surgery to try and communicate with a primate troglodyte, Trog, who's found living in local caves. And it was Joan Crawford's final film, and it was directed by Freddie Francis, starred Joan Crawford, Michael Gough, who most folk will remember as Alfred in the Tim Burton Batman films, Bernard Kay, and it's also got David Griffin, who was in Heidi High, and David Warbeck, obviously most famous for his Italian horror films, The Beyond, etc. And so, yeah, welcome, Eric. And we're talking about your favourite film.
Indeed. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. It should be everyone's favourite film, to be honest. I think you get all these surveys, don't you? They ask all these experts, pick your 10 favourite movies ever in the history of cinema. And it's so predictable. It's always like Casablanca and Gone with the Wind, Citizen Kane. Where's TROG? Like, TROG is never on these lists. And no one ever asked me to take part in these things. So you get just those boring, predictable films that don't even... How can they even compare to TROG, really? Seriously.
Well, it is a masterpiece in its own mind. It's a masterpiece in Eric's mind.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, TROG. So set the scene, because obviously you weren't old enough to see it on the cinema at the time.
No, I was only 9 years old or something. And of course, in Britain, all those kind of films were X certificates.
That's right.
And growing up in the UK, I think we all the same. We were so jealous of our American cousins because they could get to see these movies in the cinema. But here they're all X certificates. They have to be 18, 16, and then 18 to get in. And so you'd have to wait for them to come on TV. And back in those days, if a film was released in the cinema, it was 5 or 6 years before they were allowed to show it on TV. And so TV, I remember TV Christmases were great because you have a big film on Christmas Day that had been released 6 years previously in the cinema. Whereas these days, you just click a button, you can see stuff as soon as it comes out. But my first introduction, if you like, to TROG, growing up, I think like a lot of us, my two Bibles were Dennis Gifford's Pictorial History of the Horror Movies, which scandalously does not mention TROG at all, not once. There's not even one picture of TROG in there. Or is there? Perhaps there is a picture of TROG in there. Anyway, but the one I remember is in the Alan Frank book, this horror movies book. And I mean, I still have, nostalgia is a strange thing, but for me, it's the Gifford book. That was the first one I bought, and it was all those images in there, just incredible. But it didn't really seem to like anything past like 1945. Certainly didn't like the New Hammers and stuff from the 70s. Whereas Alan Frank was a lot more. He seemed to really enjoy these movies, and Alan Frank, actually, he passed away not too long ago, sadly. When I was doing my very first book for We Belong Dead, 70s Monster Memories, which is still by far our best-selling book, I was having a think about who could do the foreword, who could do the afterword, and Des Skin, who used to do House of Hammer magazine and Monster Mag, he lives here in Brighton, so we've become actually very good friends. And when I'm not away working, we always have our coffee mornings and put the worlds to right. So he did the foreword for me, but then I thought, wouldn't it be great to get Alan Frank to do the afterword? So I managed to get his phone number. It was through my friend Tony Earnshaw, actually. He sent the phone number, and he said, I've talked to Alan. He said, give him a call. I thought, oh. And I always remember having to call Alan Frank up, this man who'd written these books, which was so influential on me as growing up. I don't think I've ever been so nervous to talk to someone. But once we got chatting, I couldn't get him off the phone. Like 2 hours later, he had so many amazing stories. But anyway, this was the first of his books that I got, and inside there was this full page colour photograph from TROG. That's Joe Cornelius is the actor who played TROG. And I didn't know anything about TROG. I didn't know what it was. Or and then about 1976 or possibly 1977, it came on TV. Where I grew up in County Durham, northeast of England, our local TV station was called Tyne Tees. And every Friday, 10:30 Friday night, they would have an appointment with Thea horror movie. And TROG came on. And I'd seen a lot of films before that, obviously. I'd seen quite a few of the Hammer Dracula films and the old Universal ones. Honestly, I can't logically tell you what it is about TROG. I think it just caught me in the right mood, and I just thought it was a fantastic film. And I think one of the things about TROG is it's that classic misunderstood creature, you know, which we see a lot in movies, like all the way back to Frankenstein, was Karloff in King Kong. And he's not, TROG's not actually a monster at all. He's just misunderstood, and he's put in this situation through no fault of his own, and everyone's out to get him, especially the evil Michael Goff, who gets his comeuppance, luckily. But and then Joan Crawford, wow, like Joan Crawford, this huge Hollywood star who had one of the most amazing careers of any actor. And I always think, isn't it one of those weird serendipitous things that she ends her career making TROG for Herman Cohen, and she just made Berserk, the circus horror film, for him. So she makes TROG. That's her last movie, I believe. One of her first movies back in the silent period in 1925 was The Unknown with Lon Chaney, which is an amazing film. It's a film that it would never get made today. Like, there's no way. I mean, it's an amazing Todd Browning film. And Joan Crawford often in interviews would speak very, very highly of Lon Chaney, you know, the man of 1,000 faces. And I think it's just great that these bookend her career. You know, you have this silent Chaney film at the start. It wasn't her first film, but it was one of her first major roles. And then you have TROG at the end. But what a way to go out, eh? Being in TROG, yeah.
She liked to drink, and watching once you know that she liked to drink, watching the films, you can see those drunken, glassy eyes. You know, you can actually see her eyes are just glassy as hell. So,
to be honest, though, I mean, I think I'm surprised all the rest of the cast weren't either on drugs or drink the whole time to get through it. But you know, yeah,
it is a bit of a talky one.
Yes,
you know, the action at the kind of start and the end, and in the middle, it's, you know, there's courtroom.
That's right. Yes, with good old Thorley Walters is in there. Yeah, it's. I mean, how do you describe Trog. Really, it's just a very strange film, and you know the actual creature itself. Well, I've heard many times that it was a castaway mask from Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, but I've also heard that that's nonsense. So I honestly don't know. I mean, it does look a little bit like the 8 masks from the beginning of that.
But they just seem to give up. They've done the mask, and then
yeah,
you know what I mean.
But he has those furry boots, which became very popular, didn't they, fashion wise, a few years ago. So he was before his time.
He was ahead of the game.
He was indeed, yes.
Holland cab girls took note. We want some Trog boots. Get me Trog boots. I mean Trog boots. No boots. Aye, them ones from Trog.
And it's actually quite towards the end when Trog's kind of on the rampage in a little typically English village. It's quite brutal, actually. You know, it prefigures Texas Chainsaw Massacre with when the butcher gets stuck up onto a hook. You know, which is quite brutal. I mean, up to that point, it's not been a particularly gory or horrible film, and then suddenly, I don't know what's going on there. You know, Freddie Francis, as we all know, he wasn't a great fan of horror movies. Fantastic cinematographer, and but he had a very much a love-hate, mainly a hate relationship with horror movies. I met Freddie Francis many years ago at the Festival of Fantastic Films in Manchester, and good on him. You know, he came along as a guest. He was happy to talk about his films, although he wasn't that open to talking about Trog. I don't know why, but you know.
Going, tell me about Trog, Freddie. Come on now, tell me about Trog. Don't know why I just gave you an Irish accent for some reason, but that was just weird. But yeah, I've got a quote. Freddie Francis later referred to Trog as a terrible film and one he regretted directing, and he said, "I did it because of Joan Crawford. And poor Joan by this time was a very sad old lady. We had to have idiot cards all over because she couldn't remember her life. It's on 100% proof vodka. It was the last thing she ever did, and she shouldn't have done it. Neither should I. She had no friends, and she kept writing sad letters to my wife and I until she died."
It sounds like he kind of liked it then.
Yeah. It seems, well, he struck up a friendship with Joan Crawford.
Well, yeah, I mean, and what director wouldn't want to work with one of the icons of like 30s, 40s Hollywood?
Yeah, well, this is it.
But yeah, I actually think she gives a very good performance, and she plays it straight. You know, she doesn't just phone in a performance. I mean, goodness knows what she thought of the script when she received it. I think most of the performances in Trog are actually very good, and
solid British cast.
Well, it's a who's who of you know, familiar faces from 60s and 70s British TV and horror movies, and but it's I don't know. It's always stuck with me, and it's always been a firm favorite. And I think that way, you know, when you say that and then people start to criticize it and make fun of it, it just makes you more entrenched. It makes you more determined. But you know, my friends know me so well, you know, and my good friend Simon Ballard, he was I can't remember where he was, on holiday somewhere, and he found this, and he thought, I've got to get this. This is the Warner Press book for Trog. I love these old things, and it's so I'm a bit of a Trog obsessive. It's true. So I collect whatever I can. I've just ordered 21 8x10 still, 21 of them from the US. I had to negotiate quite long and hard for those.
Long Trog figures, and you were going to give them to
photos,
all your mates.
not figures, photos. I wish there was. And then I don't know if you can. Oops, pointing the wrong. This is the German film poster for TROG. And then, to my delight, you know, I've always been looking for a figure of TROG. Someone's just done one in the United States, and I was like, I couldn't believe it. So I ordered it straight away. So I'm looking forward to that arriving. And then my friend, Paul Garner, who wonderful, wonderful artist, he get this. He does a lot of our book covers, and one of the book covers he did was for our one of our unsung horror books. And I said, you have to put TROG in there. You have to. And then he did. And then he was doing them as art prints. And my lovely Ruth ordered me this. You can see this.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Isn't that great? It's actually, it looks a lot better than the one in the movie.
It does. It so does.
But and then, completely by coincidence, a few days ago, my good friend John Hamilton, people might know of him. He's been writing for years. He did a wonderful book for Richard Clemenson's Little Shop of Horrors. I think it was last year, Witches, Bitches and Banshees, which is all about AIP horror movies made in Britain. And he's done a few books about British horror movies and that. And he's one of the Gentlemen of Horror. We get together every couple of months in London for drinks and dinner and talks. And it includes people like Alan Bryce, editor of Dark Side, Simon Ballard, who seems to have his finger in every pie these days. And the great Graham Humphreys, of course, who's also done a few book covers for us. Peter Fuller from the Vincent Price legacy. Emma Dark, filmmaker. Many people actually, and they're kind of the core, but other people come and go. And so John Hamilton is kind of a newbie to the Gentlemen of Horror. But anyway, you know, we get together and we discuss all things horror. And but he did a post on Facebook a few days ago, and he'd written an article on TROG, which I was completely unaware of. I don't know how I missed that. It was many years ago for Little Shop of Horrors, and he posted it because it was the first article he'd ever written for them. And I commented, you know, people made the usual sarcastic comments, TROG, you know, but I commented, this should be a book. We should develop this into a book. And of course, no one took me seriously. And it's a TROG book is something I've thought about for ages, and I've joked with Alan Bryce of Dark Side when we're going to do the TROG special. Even though TROG has been released on Blu-ray, it needs a UK release. I think Treasured Films, Graham and Tom, should release TROG and get me and Alan to do the commentary on that, and Graham could do a wonderful cover. Anyway, I sent a message to John. I said, I'm being really serious about doing this TROG book, and he was like, really? I said, yeah. So he's going to talk to Dick Clemenson, because it first appeared in Little Shop of Horrors. But you know, me and Dick have worked together on a few things, so I'm sure that won't be an issue. So at long last, a dream might come true. We might have a TROG book, and the beauty of, you know, for We Belong Dead, we print lots of different books. We started with 70s Monster Memories back in 2015. And I think we've done about 15 books since then. The latest ones was we did Euro Horror, and we did a Japanese special. And I'm just working on the next one, which is hopefully we'll have out by Halloween, which is the provisional title is The Blood is the Life, a history of vampire cinema. Originally, it was going to be a history of vampire cinema from Nosferatu to Renfield. But the new Salem's Lot comes out in just over a week's time. So Ian Taylor is going to review that. So we're going to change the subtitle to from Nosferatu to Salem's Lot. We're also actually going to do a sneak preview of the new Nosferatu, but that doesn't come out till Christmas Day, so we won't really include it in any detail in the book. But anyway, we will publish these books. Now, it used to be, we had a tradition, the printer that we used to use, you had to kind of guess how many books you were going to sell. And you had to order them in advance and pay for it. You know, it was a big outlay. You know, we're talking £24,000. So you had to be sure you were going to be able to sell the things. And the other problem was you have to think, I'm going to order 500 or 1,000 or whatever. Well, you might order 1,000 and they're a very slow seller, and then you're stuck with boxes and boxes of books. Or you might order 500 and then they sell out, and then you have to do a reprint. But it's expensive because you have to pay for all the setup costs and everything. But the new printer we have, it's the same price per book, whether you do one book or 1,000 books. It doesn't really matter. It's kind of a print on demand, but it's still done the traditional way. And so it frees us up really to do anything we want. So often now, when people come to me with suggestions for books, and we've got a ton of books lined up. We've got werewolf cinema and anthology horror, 80s monster memories, disaster movies, Animals Attack is going to be our Christmas book. But you can kind of do a book that you think is probably not even going to sell. It's going to have a very niche audience. And for me, our TROG special, I might be the only person who gets a copy of it. I don't know. But I don't care. You know, there will be a book out there on TROG, and that's what it's all about, really. Yeah.
There'll be a book available on TROG, and Eric will have been a co-writer on it, and he don't care if nobody else reads it but him.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. One day people will catch up.
There is more fans of the new out there of it, I'm sure. You know what I mean? It's got. I think if there was a bit of more action in it, a better film for me.
Yeah, I mean the action all change. It's at the very end, isn't it? Suddenly the whole thing explodes and there's murder and mayhem and.
Yeah.
And then, you know, he grabs little Chloe Franks, who, of course, was in The House of Drip Blood, among other movies. And then he just comes to quite a sad end. See, I really like the beginning of TROG when they're exploring the cave. I think there's a lot of tension there. And I like the end. But as you say, the central part does plod on quite a bit. It's very, very talky. Michael Gough, who... I do really value as an actor. He gets a lot of criticism, like he's a bit over the top. And you see the other films he made for Herman Cohn, like Conga and Horrors of the Black Museum and Black Zoo. He is over the top, but it kind of fits in with the kind of movies that they are. Here, he's completely over the top. Like he's chewing away at the scenery there, but he's the real villain of the piece, isn't he?
I'm saying he doesn't go full Nicholson.
No, well, no, luckily. But yeah, I mean, it drags a little bit in the middle. What a few years ago, I don't know if you saw it. They did that TV series Feud about Joan Crawford and Betty Davis, and they had a whole episode about the making of TROG, and they recreated it so amazingly. It was incredible. Like it was like, who thought a big Hollywood studio with all these big stars would do a whole episode about the making of TROG? It's just, yeah.
You'll have loved that. I've not seen it myself personally, but I'll have to check it out now because I know that one of the episodes is all about TROG.
It is, and it's all about, Joan is having to get changed in the back of a camper van because, they're on such a tight budget and everything. And I think it even references, there's lots of product placement for Pepsi, of course, isn't there? Because she was married to one of the directors of Pepsi Cola. So there's Pepsi bottles everywhere. And you see a lot of the publicity stills. and there's Joan, and there's Trog with his bottle of Pepsi as well. And it's yeah. What's not to love about that film?
Joan's array of pantsuits, because obviously when you go spelunking into caves, best bit to wear is a kind of beige pantsuit and use a bicycle torch. So that's the best way to
well, yeah. I think we'll put that down to budgetary restrictions, just like they ran out of costume for Trog. So poor Joe Cornelius just has the mask stuck on and a bit of fur up here, and it's a very weird setup. And you think, I wonder if there was any other Trogs there. You know, if he was the only one, or there's a whole family of Trogs underground somewhere. But I do like those underground scenes. I don't know. I find them really atmospheric and quite tension filled. You know.
And we've got to talk about Trog talking.
About what?
He talks.
Oh, he does. That's the whole thing, isn't it? Like they're trying to get him to talk, and yeah,
Trying to get Chloe Franks is going, what, a bit like E.T.
Yeah. There was an American magazine in late 60s, early 70s called For Monsters Only, and they had a cover of Trog. It was a really weird painting, though. It didn't look anything like him. And they had a whole article about Trog. And then the next thing, he was in Monster Mag as well. Deskin's Monster Mag, you know, it folded out into a big, giant poster. Sadly, he wasn't as a poster. Perhaps we could do a free Trog poster when we do the book, possibly.
I think we do that.
But yeah, I think there was an article on apes in film or something. So they had a picture of a coloured photograph of Trog in that as well. And then he pops up in different horror film books and magazines. And actually in the Dark Side, a few issues back, Kim Newman actually covers Trog. I was amazed. Like, so perhaps there's a renaissance going on now, a Trog renaissance, and people are starting to realize that it is one of the greatest movies ever made. Or perhaps that's just in my head. I don't know, but
oh, that's your Trog, the greatest movie ever made.
I sent a message to my friend Paul Watts, who's another artist who does amazing covers for us. He did the 70s Monster Memories. He did the 2 covers for the Japanese horror specials we just did. And actually, some of his artwork, I'm very happy to say, has been licensed, and they're making jigsaws. This company making jigsaws of his artwork, which is wonderful. But I wrote to him the other day because he was the first one I thought of when I thought, who do I want to do the cover for the book? And his response was, "You're obsessed. You may have a problem." And I don't see it as a problem really, but I think we can make this book really good, you know, with John's text and lots of scans and stuff. The problem is finding good images for Trog is very hard. That's why I've just bought these 21 stills, and I'm toying over the idea of these American front of house set, lobby card set. It's quite expensive though, but I'm thinking about that. It's very hard to find images on the internet, good quality images for Trog. But I was talking to Steve Kirkham, my designer, and I said to him, if you know, because he authors Blu-ray discs and all sorts, and I said, he's got a whole studio setup and stuff, and I said, I'm sure you have the facility to do screen grabs, because I can't do that. I'm very bad at this kind of technology stuff. And he said, yeah, absolutely. I can do some screen grabs from Trog. You're going to have to let me have a copy of the movie. I can't, but I've been working with this man for years and he hasn't got a copy of Trog. I don't know. I was lost for words. And then Ruth, my partner Ruth, had never seen Trog, so I thought we'll have to remedy that. And I gave her my old DVD copy. But she's German. I mean, English is very, very good, but it's often, if it's a film I know really well, and we'll watch it in German. It's easier for her the first time to watch it in German with subtitles. And she found it online somewhere, and we started to watch it. And I said, "Well, there's no English subtitles on this film. It's just in German." And she said, "Yeah, but how many times have you seen this film? You know that, surely you know." I said, "Yeah, that's true, actually." So I sat and watched Trog entirely in German, which was an experience. It didn't really improve the movie. I
had the mistake of Dawn of the Dead when I first got a copy of the complete cut in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
In German. And I thought, I've seen this film, apart from the extra sequences, which I'd never seen before. I thought, I've seen this film so many times, it doesn't matter, and I just watched it in German.
Well, that's it. It's similar. The first time I ever saw the original Godzilla from 1954, it was 16mm print that managed to get hold of for the Festival of Fantastic Films in Manchester. But the only print back in those days they could get, it was the Japanese print with German subtitles. So that was my first viewing of the original Godzilla. But you can kind of, even if you've never seen a film and it's in a different language, you can kind of figure out what's going on. And last time I was in Nuremberg a month or so ago, we went to a midnight screening of Alien Romulus. And luckily, I'd already seen it in Edinburgh, because again, we went to the screening and it was just in German. So, but it's a different way of watching movies, I guess, not in your language. But yeah, the German Trog, it was fantastic, of course. So I think going forward with We Belong Dead, we've been going for 32 years now. We've got lots of amazing, talented writers and artists on board, and many of them have become friends, and we're kind of like a family. But perhaps I need to insist that anybody who works for We Belong Dead has to watch Trog at least once.
I think that's definitely got to be put into some kind of contract. That, I'm very honoured to be part of that family as a writer now. With two
it's great to have you on board. It's as many people watching this may know anyway. I started We Belong Dead back in the 90s, and literally it was with an electronic typewriter. So writers would send in either handwritten articles or typed articles, but then I have to type them all out again, and then a pair of scissors and some Pritt stick, and I would lay out the magazine. I mean, these things are so much easier, but it's quite a thing. 32 years we've been doing the magazine, and it does feel like a family. And Alan Bryce always says this to me, and I think it's true what he says. He says, We Belong Dead is very good as for people to try out their writing skills or their artistic skills and then go on to other things. And I'm so happy to see, a lot of our writers now have gone on to bigger and better things, and but they're still with us. They still do stuff for us, and some of them have even gone on to do their own books, and it's great, and it's so nice for me when people say, you gave us our first start, and that's what launched us off into this writing career. And sometimes, though, when you get writers, another good friend of mine, Stephen West, we've known each other for years, and he used to write back in the 90s for me. But then it makes you feel incredibly old when he says, I remember when you gave me my first chance as a 15-year-old boy, and I was, oh my goodness, like. But it's great. We attract lots of new people, and people seem happy to write for us. And the quality of writing, I mean, I think we match any any professional
Completely.
magazine. The big problem has always been with We Belong Dead is getting it out there. You know, I mean, Alan, obviously his magazines appear on the high street, but we simply can't afford that. It's more of a hobby, a passion, but I think we produce very professionally looking things. And our books, I'm so proud of the books we produce, because they're all large format, full color throughout. And while I understand that not everyone can afford the books, you know, we're talking about £35, and that's a lot of money to people, especially, you know, in this day and age when families are struggling. I get that, but then you look at some of the books that are produced in America, and they're all black and white, and they could be like $100 or something, you know. So I think it's good value for money for what we do.
And they look so good. You know what I mean? They look absolutely fantastic. And the Japanese special, I was shocked when you said you were doing a book of it.
I think, yeah, I have. Oh.
You vanished.
So we did the 2 issues, but then we did we put them both together.
Yeah.
This is a Paul Watts cover, as a book format, and that's sold very well, actually, very well indeed. It's.
I'm over the moon. I've got 4 pages in that book.
You have indeed, yes.
I think it's the most anyone's got in the whole book. I mean, for my second go, I was like, my God, because Kerry I was in hospital at the time, and Kerry brought us the book.
Right.
And up to have a look at. And I was just, you know, over the moon. I've got the 2 issues as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Format as a book, it's just, I'm so honoured and proud to be in it.
Oh, it's, you know, we're very happy to have you on board. Like I say, I mean, I'm sure you've already got this feeling anyway. It is like a family here. It's and sometimes we have our disagreements and our falling out. You know, I gave up editing the magazine after 30 years, a couple of years ago, simply because during the lockdowns and the pandemics, when I had nothing else to do, I work as a tour guide, so I'm off on tours for 2 weeks at a time with groups of Americans or Australians. Obviously, during that period, I was stuck at home. So we started to produce the magazine as a bi-monthly magazine, because what else was I going to do, you know? So, and we became very productive. But then in 2022, when my work came back, you know, for 8 months of the year, I'm on the road and I'm constantly working, well, which is a great thing. And then in the evening, I'm in my hotel room. And, you know, sometimes the last thing you want to do after a long day doing stuff is to start work on the magazine or whatever. And I could see the danger of the magazine just kind of going by the way. So I had a long talk with a very good friend of mine, Daryl Buxton, who we've been friends for 30 odd years. And happily, he agreed to be the editor. And he's done an amazing job over the last couple of years. And he's been doing a few special issues. Now, initially, I wasn't, I'll be honest, I wasn't very keen on that idea. I thought the beauty of We Belong Dead, it's very eclectic and there's something for everyone. And I think sometimes the danger of doing special issues is if you're not interested in that subject, you're not going to buy the magazine. And the first one he did was French horror. And I wouldn't say I was opposed to it, but I was very reluctant to go along with it. But, you know, he proved me wrong. It was one of our best sellers. And I thought, you know, what do I know anyway? We did a thing earlier this year when Roger Corman died. We did a special, Roger Corman special, which was very short pieces about the films he directed, only 500 words, and lots emphasis on the pictorial side of things, lobby cards. See, that's kind of my role with the magazine now. Is I mean, I publish it, of course, and I fund it, but I kind of take a backseat. I let Daryl get on with it. I don't like to interfere. He knows what he's doing. But the part that I do, he sends everything to me, and I do all the picture research, which I love doing. That's my favorite thing. And Steve Kirkham, our designer, he often pitches in with pictures as well. But most of the images that you see in our books and magazines, that's me sitting in front of the computer, sorting stuff out. So we did this Roger Corman one, which again we did it as a large format hardback, sold very well. And then I was chatting to Daryl yesterday. He wants to do something similar next year for Dario Argento, which I'm delighted about because Argento is one of my favorite directors. And I said to Daryl, perhaps we could do this as an occasional series of different directors, Terence Fisher and Todd Browning, George Romero. I mean, it's endless, really. The problem is, I think sometimes we have so much stuff to get through. In addition to the magazine, which is a quarterly magazine now, we have the vampire book coming up, hopefully for Halloween, and then for Christmas we have the Animals Attack book, and then we've got a whole slew of books lined up for the next couple of years, really. But that's not a bad thing, I mean, you never run out of things to publish books on,
No, very true. Very true. You were saying about vampire book. I'm looking forward to this new Salem's Lot.
Me too. Do you know what? I made the mistake of joining this Salem's Lot Then and Now Facebook group. And while most people in there are really nice and that, some of the idiots, and it's the same with all these things, isn't it? These people, oh, it's going to be rubbish. Oh yeah, it's not going to be as good as the 1979 version. Oh, I can already tell. And I always comment like, well, how can you tell you've not seen it? Like, you're making assumptions. And also you have to understand this is not 1979. This is 2024. And this is a different version. And I've never understood this when people go on and on about how remakes are unnecessary. Like, it doesn't take anything away from the original. The original's still there. It's always going to be there. This is just a different version. And from what I've seen from stills and snippets and trailers, it looks very good,
I thought the trailer looked good, so you know what I mean. I'm going to be interested to see it. I'll watch it tomorrow. I'll be able to see it tomorrow, so I'm going to watch it tomorrow as soon as possible. Yeah, that'll be one of my horrors, my Horroween or Horrorthon.
See, I'm gonna watch it. I'm off to Germany tomorrow for 9 days, but then I come back to start a tour, and on my tour, when we have a couple of days in Edinburgh, I always have a free afternoon, so I always just generally pop to the cinema. So I'm going to go and see it on the big screen and judge for myself, It's, but yeah, it's I'm actually very excited about the vampire book. We've got an amazing painting for the cover by Josh Riles, who's another one of our really talented artists. And it's we talked about what to do for the cover, and we decided on just one single image would be more eye-catching. And originally, I'd asked for Dracula Has Risen from the Grave is one of my favorite hammers, and I'd asked for, the famous photograph of him with the stake when he's staked and he pulls the stake out. But we just couldn't find a good image to base it upon. And so I love what Josh has come up with. Lee as Dracula in all his fury. And so yeah, it starts with Nosferatu, of course, and then we're going to be right up to date with the new Salem's Lot, and even a little mention of the new Nosferatu. I'm kind of glad, in a way. I was talking to Des about this yesterday, that we're going to we'll publish it before the new Nosferatu comes out, because I said it would be a bit of a rubbish title, from Nosferatu to Nosferatu. It doesn't sound as catchy, I don't think. It's but it's going to be very, very image heavy as well, and we've got about 180 movies are being covered. It's the usual We Belong Dead format. Each person has taken on a movie, written 2,000 words about it. I've done loads of picture research to get some of the more unusual stuff that you don't normally, because there's nothing worse than buying a book or a magazine and it's the same old stills over and over again. So it's amazing what you can find if you have a bit of time and you can do a bit of research. And I mentioned in my introduction that one of the books that was most influential for me, apart from Frank and Gifford, was David Perry's Vampire Cinema. And I had the original with the red cover, and it has an image of the vampire from one of the Jean Rollin movies. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of Jean Rollin or any of these exotic French, Spanish, and Italian vampire films. So that was a really big influence. And I'm very happy that I'm actually now in contact with David Perry. And I think he's actually going to be he's going to be at Darkfest this year, and we're going to be sharing a stall because he has a new version of his English Gothic book, more updated version coming out. So I think he's going to be on our stall, vlogging that book. So it's which is great, you know. So yeah, the vampire book I'm really looking forward to, and also the Animals Attack book is a great one. And that idea was first suggested actually by Simon Ballard, one of our Gentlemen of Horror, and it's a thing I'd thought about for a while. And there is a couple of books out about kind of Nature Goes Wild, Animal Attack movies. But I think We Belong Dead has a very unique format, and I think people know what to expect from us now. It's high quality printing, full color, large format, and a different writer looks at an individual film. And we've kind of always done that with our books, because I think it gives you a good it's not just one person's view on all the movies, it's different people's views. And I've always said when we do our books, pick a film that you're passionate about, even if everyone thinks it's nonsense. So I mean, no prizes for guessing. We did a book called Chopped Meat, British horror movies of the 70s, which is a very popular title. And I don't think you'd be surprised to know that I wrote the chapter on TROG. I think because no one else wanted to, or were too scared to. I don't know. You know, it's but yeah.
We've just left to you. You know
It's
what I mean?
what? Well, yes, it's my baby, really. It's
do that. They weren't even going to put a tender in for it.
But you know, a few years ago, the BFI in London, sadly at that time, well, I shouldn't say sadly, I was living in Paris. I lived in Paris for 10 years, so I wasn't in this country. But the BFI had a screening of TROG, and it was they had Joe Cornelius, who played TROG, was interviewed on stage, and John Waters is a huge TROG fan, like absolutely enormous TROG fan, and he was there as well, singing the virtues of it. I would have loved to have been at that, and I'm wondering if somebody actually recorded it somewhere. I should get in touch with the BFI and see if they have a recording of it. But yeah, you know, it's on
YouTube, Eric.
Yeah, that's a good point. I should check on there. It's but yeah, I'm very excited that my my TROG figure, which is newly being released, it's a model kit, and I'm rubbish at model kits. When I was a teenager, I would buy all the Aurora glow in the dark model kits, and even gluing them together, I got glue everywhere. It was just a mess, and trying to paint them, I was useless. But there's a guy I know. He will assemble the kits for you, and he will paint them, and he's done some amazing ones. Let me just show you a couple. So there's this Curse the Werewolf one.
Nice.
That he did for me. And then vampire wise, oops, he did this Marjorie from Salem's Lot.
Very good.
A lovely one. And he's just finished, he's putting the finishing touches to, we found an amazing kit of the Gorgon, the Hammer Gorgon.
I'd seen you post that on Facebook.
Yeah, and that's the photograph he sent me. It's nearly finished, so I'm looking forward to getting that. So I ordered this kit, TROG kit from the US, and it's been sent directly to him, and he's going to assemble it and paint it. So it's going to look fantastic. And then another friend of mine, Martin Dallard, he's one of my writers. he's a metal worker, so he does all these amazing things with metal work. And let me show you what I got off him. He does mainly comic book, DC and Marvel comic book stuff in metal, and he did this.
Wow, that is fantastic.
So it's all sculpted, and then he paints them. And I was chatting to him recently, and I said, "Oh, do you do non comic book characters?" And he said, "Well, I can do." And I said, "Can you do me a Trog?" And he was just laughing. And he's another one who said, "Yeah, you have a serious problem." But he said, "Send me some photographs. I've got a few commissions at the moment, but so I'm going to have a metal Trog as well." Yeah.
By hook or by crook, you will have a Trog collection.
I will. Yes. It would be great if someone did a Trog mask. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
There's plenty of mask makers about who'd probably hook you up.
I've seen a little Trog doll, but it was rubbish. Honestly, it was just like, I think it was the body of a Barbie doll or something, and they'd stuck some fur on it. It just looked awful.
Yeah.
I'm not a Trog completist. I want only good Trog things, if that's not a contradiction.
I was going to a bit, good Trog things. Well, but
But yeah, I mean, hopefully, just if somebody watches this and they've never seen Trog, hopefully it'll spur them on to
watch Trog, the masterpiece that is Trog and Joan Crawford's final movie.
Well, yes, yeah. I mean, like she did. It wasn't the last thing she filmed, was it? Because she did the TV, the Rod Serling Night Gallery, directed by Spielberg, where it's actually a very good story. It's one of Spielberg's earliest directorial jobs as well, I think, and that's a very good like episode of Night Gallery. But I mean, Trog, what a way to go out though, Trog, eh? I mean, it's just
pantsuit on the set of Trog.
Well, yeah, and of course before that she'd already that was the second film she did for Herman Cohen, because she did Berserk,
yeah,
which again has Michael Gough and Diana Dawes and loads of people in it, and as Daryl Buxton often says, he views Berserk, because it's all set in a circus, he views that as just a sequel to The Unknown, which made with Lon Chaney in 1925, and which again is another film. If people haven't seen it, definitely worth seeing. It's just the most bizarre storyline, and as I said, I don't think that would ever be made today. It's a bit too way out there, but I think it's one of Chaney's greatest roles. And isn't there something lovely about the fact that someone who was such a big star like Joan Crawford speaks so highly of someone that we love, Lon Chaney Sr. But yeah, I mean, I always say this. It's great. This book ended her career. The Unknown and Trog, and both films worth seeking out for different reasons. And yeah, I mean, I can see why people make fun of Trog and have a laugh at it. But at the end of the day, it's actually a very entertaining film. I think you watch that for 90 minutes or whatever it is, and at the end, you don't say, "Well, that was boring."
It's got a few laughs in it, especially the sequence where he's playing with the toys.
Yeah. And his taste in music as well is.
Yeah, he doesn't like any of the new trad stuff.
No. But
on a jazz.
Anyway, so yeah, basically go and watch Trog and make your own mind up. Don't listen to all these naysayers.
You can get Trog on Blu-ray. It's on Kino Lorber, so it's an American release. so make sure your machine's multi-region. It's not on YouTube, surprisingly. It's not on Tubi either. And it's not on like any of the major streamers, obviously, because I had a look last night.
All right, I'm surprised now. I think you can still pick up the DVD quite inexpensively.
Well, yeah, I think it'll be a couple of pence. But yeah, but yeah. So that's our TROG special, basically. Eric's love. We've been threatening to do this episode for a long time.
We have, yes.
Contact last week, and with me being kind of housebound and bedroom bound, it was the ideal time because I've got so much time on my hands because I can't do anything. So Eric had a captive audience for this one.
Indeed. And then we're going to, quite soon, we're going to do a We Belong Dead one, aren't we, on Japanese horror.
Next week, end of next week, I think it is. Is it the end of next week or the end of this week? I can't remember, but it's on the page, so I'll have a look.
Yeah, it's next week. Yeah. So
join us again for the We Belong Dead Japanese special podcast, where I'll have young Eric back on, the Fred Astaire of the Gentlemen of Horror. I've been told everything. I know the score. You know what I mean? Bryce has been loose lips.
Oh, I know. What's that man like? It's
He's a cracker. We'll get off. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
This has been the Carlisle Cult Cinema Club presents TROG, a special with guest Eric Norton. Thank you so much for being on. Such good night from me. Good night from Eric, or bye, or afternoon. Who knows when you're watching this? Thank you all for sticking around and listening to this nice little quick episode on TROG.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Danny Thompson, and you are watching the Carlisle Cult Cinema Club. Please head over to our Facebook page and hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel.